Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to crochet the Grinch. He makes a super cute ornament or Christmas decoration. So the pattern calls for DK weight yarn. It takes approximately 8.5 grams in grass green, 1.75 grams in white, and 2 grams in red. You're also going to need a 3mm crochet hook and 7mm safety eyes, in addition to your normal crochet items like yarn needles, stitch markers, embroidery floss, and stuffing. However, the gauge doesn't matter much. You can use any size yarn and matching hook size as long as you adjust the yardage of yarn and safety eyes accordingly. If you're using a larger weight yarn and larger hook size, you'll end up using a bit more yarn. For today's video, I'm using a 4mm crochet hook and worsted weight yarn. We're getting started on the body and head of the Grinch, and I'm going to be using this kind of grass green colored yarn. And the first thing that we need to do is get a magic ring formed. So let's do a quick review on how to get one of those tied and how to make our first few single crochet stitches inside. Alright, so let's review how to form a magic ring. So we're going to start by taking a little length of our yarn, and I'm using white for this demonstration. Make sure you're using the correct color for the pattern that you are following along with. So I'm going to take this white, and I'm going to reserve myself a little bit of a tail. So I'm going to take the end of that yarn and I'm going to stretch it so I've got about 5 inches or so of a tail. And the tail is going to be the end that is not attached to our ball of yarn. So once we've got about 5 inches or so reserved of that tail, we're going to take our yarn hand. For me, that's my left hand, but if you're a left-handed crocheter, this might be your right hand. But we're going to take our yarn hand and make a bit of a finger guns here. So my index and my middle finger, I'm going to put them together and I'm going to be looking at the inside of them. Then I'm going to take that tail that I've reserved, that 5 inches, and I'm going to lay it so that it's over the lower digit on my index and my middle. And then I'll take my thumb and I'm going to press the yarn to those 2 fingers. Then I'm going to take my hook hand, which is for me my right hand, but could be your left hand. I'm going to grab the working yarn. Once I've got that grabbed, I'll take it and I'm going to wrap it around the back side of my index and my middle finger so that it's sort of close to that top digit. I'll flip my hand over so you can see. So I want it to be close to my top digit so you can see it's closer to the 2 tops of my fingers here. So we're going to wrap that around, and then once we've got it around the top digit of those 2 fingers, we're going to bring it so that it goes behind our thumb again. So I use my thumb and I pinch that second wrap in place. Then we're going to keep wrapping, this time going around the lower digit on our 2 fingers. So I'll flip my hand over so you can see these 2 wraps here. This is that one I just made going around that lower digit. So we'll wrap around that lower digit. And then we're going to take our working yarn and one more time snug it behind our thumb. And then just pull it out of our way. So once we've done that, we should have 2 wraps and this sort of X shape on the insides of our hands. So once we have all of the yarn wrapped around our yarn hand here, we're ready to take our crochet hook in our hook hand. And we're going to flip our yarn hand over so that we're looking at the back side of our fingers. So we should have 2 wraps, one around the top digit, one around the lower digit on our yarn hand. We're going to take our hook and slip it underneath that top wrap, and then use the hook part to snag that lower wrap and bring it underneath the top wrap. Then we're going to take both of our hands and we're going to flip them over so that we're looking at the inside and away from our body. So I'm flipping out and away from my body. And then I'm going to bring my 2 hands together, so my yarn hand and my hook hand. I'm going to bring them so the index finger here on my hook hand can touch the back side of my yarn hand. Then using the thumb and index finger of my hook hand, I'm going to grab both the wrap on my hook and the wrap still on my fingers right where they meet. So I'm going to kind of snag the 2 of them together right there. Once I've got those pinched between my thumb and index finger on my hook hand, I can let go with my thumb and then gently slide those wraps off of my index and middle finger. So now that I've done that, let's locate both the tail that's the end that's no longer attached to our ball of yarn, so it's got this blunt cut end on it. And we're going to kind of pull that over into the 12 o'clock position, so kind of up and away. And then let's locate the working yarn. That's the stuff still attached to our ball of yarn. So once we've got those two identified, we're going to take the working yarn and begin tensioning it. So to do that, we'll take our index finger on our yarn hand. That for me is my left hand. Could be your right hand for you if you're a left-handed crocheter. And we're going to slip the working yarn over the top of our index finger. Then we'll take our middle, ring, and pinky finger on our yarn hand, and we're going to wrap those around that working yarn. Once you've done that, we also need to sandwich this working yarn in between our magic ring and our tail. So to do that, I like to take my middle finger and thumb on my yarn hand, and I'm going to grab that tail with my middle finger here. And then with my thumb, I want to grab the ring. So we don't want to grab our working yarn, which is kind of going in through that ring. We want to just get the bottom end of the ring here. And once you've got those two, we're going to kind of pinch them together. And you can see that sandwiches our working yarn in between the two of them. Once we've got those grabbed with our yarn hand, we can let go with our index and thumb on our hook hand. And the ring here that's on our hook is really loose. We'll tighten that by pulling our index finger up and away. You can see how that tightens that yarn. And then once we've done that, we're ready to yarn over and draw through the loop on our hook. So we'll take our hook, put the yarn over our hook, so I kind of just swing around the back side there and grab it. And we're going to pull that working yarn directly through the loop on our hook. Once we've done that, you can let go. It's not going to come undone. It won't come untied, which is very comforting because we've spent all this time creating it. The last thing we need to do before we're ready to begin is we're going to take the tail, and you can see it's threaded through our magic ring. We're going to take that tail and we're going to pull it out from the center of that ring. And from here, we're ready to begin working in the magic ring. We also need to work over the tail as well. So we'll take that ring and we'll take the tail and we're going to set them together so that we are working over both of these strands, the ring and the tail. All right, you are ready to go ahead and continue on in your pattern. Okay, so I have my magic ring formed and I'm ready to start in on round 1, where I need to place 8 single crochet stitches inside of this magic ring and over the tail that we used to tie the magic ring. So I'm going to start by taking my index finger on my hook hand and I'm going to hold the loop in place on my crochet hook while I take my hook and go through that ring and under that tail. So you can see I'm holding the ring and tail together here in my yarn hand. Then I'm going to yarn under and use the hook to grab my working yarn and draw it up into a nice tall loop here on my crochet hook. Then I'll yarn over and draw through both loops left on my hook to finish my single crochet stitch. We also want to mark the stitch, so we're going to take our stitch marker and slide it from front to back underneath both of the little legs of the V shape on our stitch. And then lock it in place. And we need to add 7 more of these stitches for a total of 8 stitches for round 1. So again, use your index finger to hold that loop in place while you go through your ring, yarn under and draw up a loop, then yarn over and draw through both. There's our second single crochet stitch. And we're just going to keep adding them until we have all 8 for round 1. Alright, so when you have all 8 of your single crochet stitches, and you can double check by turning your work here on the side and counting these V shapes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we don't count the loop on our hook as a stitch. That's sort of like a stitch in the works. We're ready to do the magic part of our magic ring. So we'll grab that last single crochet stitch we've made and the tail we've been working over. We're going to pull, which will close that round off and gets us ready for round 2. So round 2, we're going to be increasing in each of the 8 stitches we made for round 1. So to increase, we're going to be putting 2 single crochet stitches in each stitch all the way around. So we'll go ahead and take our stitch marker out, and then we're going to go through the stitch that it was just in, just like we put our marker in, from front to back. Then yarn under and draw up a loop. Then yarn over and draw through both. Then mark that stitch that we just made. We always want to mark that first stitch because it helps us keep track of where we are in our pattern. Then to finish off that increase, we're going to put a second single crochet stitch in that same stitch from round 1. So I've got 2 stitches coming out of the same hole or stitch from round 1. Then I'll rotate and add another increase to this next stitch. And I'm just going to keep increasing, adding 2 single crochet stitches to every stitch all the way around. Alright, so I am all the way around round 2. Before I move on to round 3, I'm going to give the magic ringtail one final pretty tight tug. Then flip my work over and use my scissors to trim this tail short. So we're going to trim it short but not off. So give it a snip, discard whatever you trimmed. And that's going to keep our magic ringtail out of our way as we continue working around. Alright, we're ready for round 3. We've got some parentheses here with instructions inside. We need to do everything inside of those parentheses in the order that they appear, the amount of times indicated outside of the parentheses. So let's just dive right in. Take our stitch marker out, start with 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. So there's that first single crochet stitch, I've marked it. Then an increase in the next stitch, so 2 single crochet stitches. And that's everything inside those parentheses once. We need to do that 8 times total, so another 7 times, and that will give us 24 stitches at the end of this round. So 1 single crochet stitch, increase in the next stitch, and then just keep repeating that pattern. Alright, that was my last increase of round 3. I'm ready for rounds 4 and 5. So we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around for both round 4 and 5. So here I am starting it on round 4. You'll want to move your stitch marker up at the beginning of each new round. So I'm putting my marker back in after working that first single crochet stitch. And I'm going to just continue working around, putting 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch for round 4 and round 5. So I will catch you back here whenever I have added that last single crochet stitch for round 5, and we're ready to move on to round 6 together. Alright, so I just made the last single crochet stitch of round 5, and I'm ready for round 6. We've got a new parentheses pattern to repeat, starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of the round. There are those 5 single crochet stitches, and then 1 increase in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that 3 more times for a total of 4 repetitions. So 5 single crochet stitches, increase, Alright, that's round 6 done. Round 7 and 8, we need to put one single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. So just like with rounds 4 and 5, don't forget to move your stitch marker up as you start each new round. And I'll catch you back here whenever I have finished the last single crochet stitch of round 8, and we're ready to move on to round 9 together. Okay, I just made the last single crochet stitch of round 8, and I'm ready to move on to round 9. Starting with one single crochet stitch in the next 9 stitches of the round. There are those 9 single crochet stitches. Then I'm going to place 4 increases back to back, so one in the next 4 stitches of the round. So here's my first increase. Alright, there are those 4 increases. Then I'm going to put one single crochet stitch in the next 6 stitches of the round. There are those 6 single crochet stitches, then another 4 increases. And then one single crochet stitch in the remaining 5 stitches of the round. Alright, that's round 9 done, so rounds 10 through 13, just like rounds 4 and 5 and 7 and 8, one single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Don't forget to move your stitch marker up as you start each new round. And like before, I will catch you back here whenever I have finished the last single crochet stitch of round 13, and we're ready to get the eyes placed. Alright, so I just finished the last single crochet stitch of round 13, and we're ready to get the eyes placed. So we're going to take the loop on our crochet hook, draw it up long, and take our hook out. Then we need to flip our work over so this loop is at the back, so just kind of turn your work. And then we need to locate those increases that we made, the big cluster of them on either side here, because the face is going to be centered in between those. So find where those increases are. You can see here and here, it sort of flares out like a bell along those increases. Our face is going to be centered between those. So I'm going to grab my first safety eye. If you're using safety eyes, you can go ahead and get them out and ready to go here. But if the Grinch is going to be for a child or for a pet, you may want to embroider the eyes on instead. But I'm going to take my safety eye and I'm going to count down to round 9. So starting with our magic ring, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then it's the space between round 9 and 10. Then they're about, let's see, 4 stitches apart. So we're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, and place the second. And then double check that they're sort of centered between those increases. I'm going to shift mine over both eyes 1 stitch to this direction. There we go, I'm happy with that as the placement on the eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and snap the plastic backs onto the back side of the eyes now that I'm happy with where they're placed. Alright, so there are my eyes placed. I'm ready to go ahead and continue crocheting. So I'm going to flip my work back over, take my hook and go back through that loop I drew up long, and then pull my working yarn to tighten that loop down. And I'm ready for round 14. Starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round, and then we need to decrease. So to make our decrease, we're going to first be working in the front loops of our next 2 stitches. So to work in the front loop, so far we've been going through and grabbing both loops, but to get the front loop, we're going to just grab the loop closest to the surface of our work. You can see I've got it here on my hook. Then to start our decrease, we'll yarn under and draw our yarn through that front loop, and then repeat in the next stitch. So go through the next front loop, yarn under, and draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 loops there on our crochet hook. So that's how we'll make our decrease, and we're going to continue that pattern of 1 single crochet stitch, 1 decrease for a total of 12 times. So I'm going to go through my next stitch, my single crochet stitch, and then the front loops for my decrease. And then just keep repeating that pattern, 1 single crochet stitch, decrease. Alright, that's round 14 done for me. I'm ready for round 15. Starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of my round. Right, there are those 2 single crochet stitches, and then another decrease. And we're going to repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6. So 2 single crochet stitches, decrease. Alright, that's round 15 done. I'm ready for round 16. I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round. And then 1 decrease. Then repeat that pattern another 5 times. 1 single crochet stitch, decrease. Alright, so there's that last decrease of round 16. Before I make round 17, which is the last round here of the head, I want to pull this last loop up long and take my hook out. And we need to add some stuffing to the inside of the head here at this point. Alright, so I have the head stuffed. I'm going to go ahead and flip my work back over, put my hook in that loop I drew up long, and then pull on my working yarn to draw that loop back down. And we're ready for round 17, which is the last round here on the head. 1 decrease in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so that was my last decrease. I'm ready to fasten off. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, go to that next stitch where it just was, and we're going to make a slip stitch. So we're going to yarn under, drop a loop, and then draw the loop we just created through the only other loop left on our hook to slip stitch. And we're going to need a long tail because we're going to use it to add some shaping on the face and also to add the eyebrows. So reserve yourself 14 inches of this green, and then pull that loop on your hook until your tail you cut passes through as well. And then we're going to pull the tail one last time to tighten. And then we need to use this tail to sew closed our last round. So let's go ahead and get that tail threaded through the eye of our tapestry needle. And we're going to sew through each of the front loops of these decreases all the way around. So I'm going to go kind of to the left of this knot here. Sew up, rotate, sew up, just snagging those front loops for each of those 6 decreases. Alright, I've got all 6 of those sewn. I'm going to pull to tighten. And then I need to tie a surface or French knot here to secure the cinch on this last round. So I'm going to go ahead and loop my working yarn over the surface of my work. Grab some of the fabric of that last stitch, and on the way up, go through the ring that we formed with our needle. And then as we pull, that ring's going to wrap itself around our tail, tying a knot. Alright, so next up we need to add the shaping here to the head, and we're going to use this green that's left over from where we closed off this last round to shape. So to add the shaping to the eyes, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to sew it down through the center of the round we closed at the bottom of the head. I'm going to come up directly underneath the eye on this side. And I'm going to sew a straight stitch along the bottom of the eye here, and then bring my needle up on this side of the head underneath the other eye. I'm going to pull tight. That's going to add some shaping to the underside of the eye. You can see it sort of pulls the eye in a little bit. We're going to repeat on this side here. And then we'll use this green to also embroider the eyebrows on. So I'm going to add this shaping and then come up to the top of the first eye that we sewed by. And then pull this tight as well. I kind of use my fingers to help the shaping shape the way I want. We're trying to make like the bridge of the nose here. As you can see, that adds the shaping to the eyes. And then we're going to sew the eyebrows on. So we're going to run a straight stitch here, kind of up at an angle. So I'm going to go up one row over and to the outside of the eye. And then come back out through where I went down. And we'll repeat that by sewing a second stitch, coming back up through where we went down. And then we're going to wrap this yarn around forming the eyebrow. So we'll take our needle and pass it underneath those 2 straight stitches. And we're just going to keep sewing around to really make the eyebrow emphasized here. Alright, so when you've sewn all the way around, we're going to repeat on the other side for the other eyebrows. I'm going to go down into my work and then across the way. You can see that forms the first eyebrow here on the Grinch's face. We'll repeat on the other side in the same way. So 2 long straight stitches. And then sew underneath and wrap those straight stitches to make the eyebrow. Alright, so there are both of the eyebrows done for me, so I'm going to go ahead and take my tail and send it just out through a random stitch kind of next to where one of the eyes are. And then I'm going to tie another surface knot. So just like I did when I closed off down here, make a little loop, grab some of the fabric of my work, and sew up through that loop. And then sew down into the fabric of the body, out through just any old place. Unthread my needle. By pulling that tail tight and trimming, I weave in any excess that I didn't need. So there are the eyebrows and the face shaping. Let's add the mouth next. So we need some black yarn. Alright, so I got some black yarn threaded through the eye of my needle. And I'm going to start by sewing 1 straight stitch across in between the eyes to form the nose. And it's going to be in the round directly beneath round 10. So in the space between rounds 11 and 12. So I'm going to take my black and I'm going to send it up through the space between stitches. So when you send your needle in, Try not to snag any fabric, get just the space between a stitch. And we're going to come up here between the eyes in the space between round 11 or 10 and 11. And we're going to leave a little bit of a black tail here on the outside of our work because we are going to come back and tie onto this to fasten off. We're going to sew a long straight stitch here in between the two eyes, and then we're going to go about 3 rounds down, so 1, 2, 3, and sew up in the middle. So here's that stitch that forms the nose. And you can see I'm 1, 2, 3 rounds down below and then centered in between where the nose is. We'll sew a straight stitch up that's going to come and hide underneath the nose. And then we need to sew the sides of the mouth. So we're going to go about halfway between where the nose and the line for the mouth is. And then just a little bit to the outside of the nose on either side. So about halfway through where the eyes are. So there's the line for the nose. And we're going to sew a stitch just pretty much straight along here and repeat on the other side, giving him his signature smirk here. And also back down and in. And then we need to add a little bit of a straight stitch here on the outside to really make this look like the smirk that the Grinch has. So we'll sew a straight stitch right over here and another one on the other side, which really gives him that kind of a smirk look. So then when we sew this last straight stitch on this side, we're going to come up through the space between stitches that we went down through. So be really careful not to snag any of the fabric on your way up. You can see that gives our Grinch his classic look there. Then we're going to unthread and then tie these two ends together. Give those two ends a trim so they're really short. And then pull the fabric of our work up to hide that knot to the inside. Alright, so there's his face. Then we're going to go ahead and add the whites around the outsides of the eyes now. So we'll get a little white yarn threaded on our needle here. And we're going to go again down in the space between stitches and come up so that we're in the center of the bottom of this eye on the right side of the head. Just like with the smile, leave a little white on the outside. And then we're going to sew around the outside of this eye, kind of just giving it a little white. And then sew to the top middle of the left eye. And then just pull that stitch to add the little white on the outside. Do the same on this side. And then sew up through where we came down through. And that adds the white detail to the outsides of the eye. I'm going to go ahead and unthread and tie these two ends together. And then pull the fabric of my work up over that knot. And if it's being stubborn, you can also take your needle and push the knot to the inside. Alright, so there are the white shines, and then we need to add the eyelashes next. Alright, so I've got a little more black threaded through the eye of my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and add the eyelashes on. So again, going down in the space between stitches. We're going to come up even with the center of the eye here, just to the outside of the white that we sewed. Leave a little tail on the outside. And the first eyelash is going to go just straight out, and then the second one's going to kind of angle a little bit. So there's that first eyelash, and I'll bring the second one just down and into that same space I went up through, and we'll repeat on the other side. So straight out, and then angled down. Then we're going to go out through where we came in. You can see that adds his eyelashes. And we'll tie these two ends together. And then trim and pull the knot to the inside. Alright, so there's the embroidery for the head done. Let's move on to the next part of the pattern. Alright, so next up we've got the hat, starting with some white yarn and another magic ring. Alright, there's my magic ring formed. I'm ready for round one. We're going to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of the magic ring. Alright, when you've got all 6 single crochet stitches, you can pull your magic ring tail. And we're ready for round 2, where we've got a new parentheses pattern. 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. Followed by 1 increase. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So 1 single crochet stitch, 1 increase. Alright, that's round 2 done. Let's give our magic ring tail one final tug, and then give it a trim. And we're ready for round 3. We're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each of the 9 single crochet stitches we made for round 2. Okay, that's round 3 done. Round 4, we're going to begin by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. And then 1 decrease. And then repeat that another 2 times. And then I'm about to make that last decrease, but we're making a color change here too, so we need to finish this decrease in our new color. So we'll start our decrease, go through our next loop, drop a stitch. But we're going to be switching to red. So we're going to cut the white because we have quite a few rows to work between when we switch back to white. So cut a tail on the white, you don't need very much. And then we're switching to red for the body of the hat. So here I have the red. I'm going to make a little loop out of it. And then I'm going to pull that loop through those 3 loops left on my crochet hook. Then I'm going to take the tail that I created and set it to the back with the white tail. And we are ready to start on round 5, where we're making back loop only slip stitches all the way around. So we'll go through our next white stitch, back loop, and we're just slip stitching in each of those back loops all the way around. You can push your tails out of the way as you keep working around. Alright, so that's round 5 done. Round 6, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in each back loop all the way around. We can take the tails from when we fastened on at this point and push them to the inside of the pom-pom. You can take your hook out and sort of just use it to push those tails to the inside. It's going to keep them out of our way as we keep working around. Alright, so round 6, 1 single crochet stitch in each back loop all the way around. I'm also going to mark my first stitch at this point too. Alright, so there's round 6 done. Round 7, we're going to increase in each stitch all the way around. Alright, that's round 7 done for me. Round 8, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Alright, that's round 8 done. Round 9, we're going to start by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. Then 1 increase. And we're going to repeat that 5 more times. So 1 single crochet stitch, 1 increase. Alright, that's round 9 done, and round 10, which is the last round here of the red, we'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round, and then 1 increase. And repeat that another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so here's my last increase. I'm going to stop before I make that full second single crochet stitch. So I've got 1 single crochet stitch here in the increase. I'm going to go through the yarn under and draw up a loop. And then I need to draw through these 2 loops in our new color, which is white. So we'll go ahead and cut the red. We're not coming back for it. Make another little loop out of our new color, which is white. Draw that loop through the 2 loops on our hook. And then take the white and the red tail and lay them together at the back of our work. So for round 11, we're going to make 1 back loop only slip stitch all the way around. So just go through our back loop, slip stitch in this new color. Alright, so that was round 11 for me. I'm ready for round 12, which is the last round here of the hat. So we're working the back loops again. We'll start by chaining 2 stitches, and then we'll make a slip stitch in the next back loop. And we're going to repeat that, chain 2, back loop, slip stitch. We'll just keep repeating that until we are all the way around. Alright, so that was my last chain 2. I need to slip stitch in the last back loop here. And then I am ready to fasten the hat off. So I'll go ahead and cut a tail. And then pull that loop until my tail passes through and tighten. So depending on how you're going to be attaching the hat to the head, if you're going to be just setting the hat on the head as an accessory, you'll want to weave all of your tails in, but if you're going to be stuffing and then sewing the hat on like I am, we can just push those tails to the inside. And then I'm going to put a little stuffing inside of my hat. You don't need a lot, just a pinch, kind of to help it hold its shape. And then we're going to use this white tail to sew the hat to the head. So I'll thread that tail through. And it's kind of attached over onto the side of the head like so. And to attach, we'll just sew up through some of the fabric of the head and into that back loop we added all these chain 2s in. So I'm just going to work my way around, sewing the hat securely to the head as I work. Alright, so when you have sewn all the way around, we need to attach all of the stuff that we've sewn. So we're going to tie another surface knot here, right into the fabric of the hat. And then sew the tail down into the head and out through any old place. And then trim. And with the hat attached, your Grinch is complete.